What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're here for another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty, and we are going to be doing our Dynasty trade review show. So all of these trades that we talk about in today's episode, they have been submitted into our Discord. Our Discord is free to join, so if you have not joined that and you want your trades reviewed on a future episode, make sure you are a member of that Discord. As I mentioned, free to join, so no risk in doing that. Without wasting any more time, let's hop right into today's video, and let's start talking about some Dynasty fantasy football trades. War, how we doing today, man?
Hey, man, we doing good, man. I'm excited for another great trade show.
Dude, these are my favorite. I think these are my favorite pieces of content to make. It's fun to talk Dynasty trades. When is it not fun?
Right. Let's help these guys, critique their trades and see how it's going to help their fantasy rosters going forward.
Fair enough. So, as always, we have about 10 trades. First trade pulled up on the screen right now. This is a 12-team Superflex half-point PPR and a start 10. Team 1 is a contender. So, they traded for Amari Cooper. They got a 25-second thrown in, but they give up Jaxon, Smith-Njigba. Njigba's a guy that we've kind of all liked in the Dynasty Fantasy Football community. He's showing some signs of life. It feels like he's kind of taking a slow burn, but we did see some signs of life. How are we feeling about this type of move if you're a contending roster?
I like the JSN side. I feel like I don't want to be too unfair to Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper doesn't get the gears running. I feel like JSN, that upside is there. The upside is so massive. I mean, it's so early to trade away JSN. I just traded away JSN in the league, but I got a bag for him. So, I got Tua, which, that was almost like a throw-in. Tua, Derrick Henry, Chris Olave.
Oh, my God.
For JSN, and who else did I trade away with JSN? I forget, but JSN was definitely the most valuable piece I gave away in that deal. So it was practically JSN for all three of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I think for me, too, when I'm looking at a trade like this, I kind of agree with you in the aspect of how much better on a points per game basis is Amari Cooper actually going to be for you than Jaxon Smith-Njigba this year.
Yeah.
Probably not that much better. Now, I do hear the argument that Amari Cooper is probably going to be a little bit more consistent. His floor is probably higher because he's the number one wide receiver in the offense and not the number 2B, 2A, whatever the hell Jaxon Smith-Njigba is at this point. I hear that argument. I like that you get the 25-second thrown in on top because now you kind of get to re-roll another young guy in the future, or you can use that as, a piece to go upgrade somewhere else. If you wanted to make a secondary move, maybe you take Cooper in the second and you pair them together and you go get a Mike Evans or you go get a Chris Godwin. That might feel even better for you as a contender. But I think straight up, just looking at the value and looking at the two pieces together, even though you are a contender, I do think I lean with the JSN side.
Yeah, I'm right there. I mean, I feel like JSN has a big opportunity to even be one of the, premier players towards the end of the year. So, and I think I think that room is there more for him so than Amari Cooper.
Agreed. All right, well, let's move on to this next trade here. We do have a 12-team Superflex full PPR. It is a full point for the tight end premium, so that's 2 points per reception for the tight ends. It's also a 0.25 point per carry, so every carry that the running backs get, they get a quarter of a point, and it's start 11. Now, Achane SJ is a contender. He buys Brian Robinson Jr. and Jordan Mason. He gives up a 26 first-round pick and a 25 second-round pick that was Big C's. So, we're getting two running backs that probably have shorter shelf lives. We're giving up a future pick 2 years from now and a second-round pick next year. On a contending roster, are you okay doing that based on the production that we think we're going to continue getting out of Mason and Robinson, or are you not really looking to do that with that roster?
I'm not really looking to do that with that roster, man. Okay, first of all, let's start with Mason because that's the easier one to get out the way. I recently just seen a trade you made in the league. You traded away, and it was redraft. I'll just give that little caveat. You traded away Juwan Jennings you traded away Juwan Jennings, right?
I traded away him for just some fab.
And the reason you did that is because Debo's going to come back. Christian McCaffrey, I know it's looking kind of sketchy right now, but I feel like the likelihood is that he's coming back. And I don't see Jordan Mason being as valuable and that big of a deal. So like Jordan Mason, the most I'd probably trade for him is like a third, and even that, like, even I would be uncomfortable a little bit with that because I just don't see any big time production out of him once Christian McCaffrey comes back. And then Brian Robinson, he's a nice running back, but is he 2026 first nice? No. Is he 2025 second nice? No. So I know you
I
might disagree with me there.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about it.
But I just don't see the first is definitely more egregious because at least you can make an argument for Brian Robinson, but the first just makes this deal nasty. And maybe is me. Maybe guys, you tell me if I'm too low on Jordan Mason right now, but I'm
I think
definitely
for
taking
me,
the side with the draft pick.
fair enough. I think for me, it looks like an overpay. It looks like you've traded off more value than you got back. Kind of thinking a little bit too short term. And
Yeah.
you gotta take the scoring settings into account. The 0.25 per carry, like that's gonna benefit a guy like Jordan Mason because he's getting 20 carries a week. Like that's gonna benefit a guy like Brian Robinson. So that running back position does have a little bit more value in a scoring format like this. Now, I will say the 25 second for B-Rob, like I would do that all day long, every day. But that leaves you like the other side of the deal being Jordan Mason for the 26 first. And I think that's where the disconnect is because I agree with you where it's like Jordan Mason, he is a player where if you have him on the roster, you are going to ride the hot hand until the wheels fall off. You're basically going to have him until Christian McCaffrey comes back and you will just benefit off of all of those points that you get. Whether that's 4 more weeks, 8 more weeks, the whole season, we don't know. It's so in flux at the moment that I'm willing to just let Jordan Mason be on the roster. Now, as somebody buying Jordan Mason, I'm viewing him a little bit more pessimistic. I'm viewing it more as like, okay, I might get 4 weeks out of him. I might get a month out of Jordan Mason. And if you do, is Jordan Mason on a contending roster even going to help you when it's time to win playoff games in November and December? Probably not. Like, he's not going to do that for you if Christian McCaffrey is back in the lineup. So giving away future draft capital on a contending roster for a contending piece that won't actually help you when it's playoff time, I don't love that. I think for me, if this was a deal that I'm doing, I would have rather just targeted Brian Robinson solo. I wouldn't have had Jordan Mason in this deal. I'm sure the guy who, Big C, I'm sure he was trying to throw Jordan Mason in here just to capitalize off of the value and get out, because that looks like a move where you sell the running backs and you get the draft capital. He's probably playing for the future. That's a good deal for him in this type of situation. But if I'm trading the first and the second, Brian Robinson is fine, but I'm looking for another running back that has some short-term and some long-term sustainable value, at least for the whole season. Like, I would try and go grab a guy like, why could you not target a guy like James Conner? Why could you not target a guy like Zach Moss, who we think will be maybe not as good as Jordan Mason in the short term? I think actually James Conner might be better than Jordan Mason in the short term, but you also get the full year of production out of them because we know that Zach Moss will be the starter as long as he's healthy. We know Conner will be the starter as long as he's healthy. And so that's just the way that I view it. Maybe it's the Jordan Mason. Maybe we're being pessimistic on Jordan Mason, but he feels like an asset in Dynasty where if you're buying Jordan Mason, it better be at a good price because the wheels can fall out from underneath Jordan Mason very quickly as soon as Chris McCaffrey's back.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing here too, and I'm guilty of this, Andrew will tell you, it's a dangerous game you play. When you play I'll just kick the can down the road and deal with it later strategy, it always ends up hurting you when you get down the road. And I understand now it's like 2026 so far away. I don't have to worry about this right now. I could figure it out between now and 2026. That time period creeps up before you know it, then you'll be looking like, man, I don't have a first in 2026 and I need this in order to complete my roster. And you're going to kick yourself when you look back and realize, man, in 2024, I did trade that first for Jordan Mason. So
yeah,
it's a dangerous game, my friend. It's a dangerous game.
It is. And I will say too, it's still slightly premature and slightly early in the year to be pushing all of your chips in contending. Because we are in week 4, we're going towards week 5. And I think between now and probably your trade deadline, which who knows when the trade deadline is, maybe you don't even have a trade deadline, but between now and then, a lot of stuff can happen. Your starting quarterback could get hurt. Your starting running back could get hurt. Your starting wide receiver could get hurt. And now your team is not as strong of a contender anymore. So then at that point, you may be looking at like, why did I buy Jordan Mason for a first when now I'm banged up and I don't even know if I'm like a super strong contender? Obviously, you could just be a good team the rest of the way. But I think these moves where you push the chips in, they happen closer to the trade deadline and not right now, especially when you're buying very risky, volatile assets like Jordan Mason.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So there you go. Let's move on to the next trade here. The next trade is going to be a 12-team super flex, half PPR, and a tight end premium. We have Lamar Jackson going to team 1. They are giving up Justin Herbert, T. Higgins, and a throw-in of Michael Wilson. But how do we feel about a package like this for Lamar Jackson? Obviously, Lamar Jackson having a great year right now. Still, fantasy football-wise, he is the quarterback 2 at the moment, behind only Josh Allen. Justin Herbert, obviously banged up, not throwing the football that much. It's the Jim Harbaugh experience. But T. Higgins, Michael Wilson, is that enough of a package thrown in with Herbert to give up Lamar Jackson, or are you taking the Lamar Jackson side?
Yes, I'm taking the Lamar Jackson side. And I'm a Herbert guy, but here's the thing, man. I have officially put Herbert in my mind. Herbert is officially a guy who you have a great luxury if he is your quarterback too. If you're in super flex and he's your quarterback too, I look at him as an upper echelon QB2 now. I don't really look at him as an upper echelon QB1, or I just feel like that's the right place for Justin Herbert. T. Higgins, he's simply just injured too much. He's injured too much, and I don't know what direction we're going to go. Michael Wilson, he's a dart throw, and so I feel like that's not the package you want to receive if you're trading away the QB2. I mean, it's as simple as that. This is not to trash Justin Herbert. I think he's great, but he's just now a quarterback that I would rather have as my QB2 than my QB1.
Yeah, I agree, man. There's just simply not enough passing volume for Herbert. There's not enough upside throwing the football in that offense. He doesn't rush enough with his legs to like make up for the lack of passing volume the way that Lamar Jackson was when Greg Roman was his offensive coordinator. That being said, this very much feels like, and it's not necessarily the same situation, so Chargers fans do not hear what I'm not saying here, but have you ever seen the meme of the Bugatti that's in the trailer park garage? Have you ever seen that meme?
I haven't seen it, but that sounds hilarious.
It feels like somebody had like a Bugatti. It's parked in this trailer park, and it's like, their living situation ain't good, but they're driving the fancy car. Justin Herbert feels like the Bugatti in the trailer park right now. Like, the talent of Justin Herbert is the Bugatti, but he is not being utilized, and he's just not going to have the situation around him. I mean, what number one wide receiver is Ladd McConkey, which I like Ladd McConkey. He's not a number 1 wide receiver at the NFL level. He's a number 2. He's a number 3, a really good slot wide receiver. Like, that's the type of guy. QJ, the truthers are going to come out and say he's looking like the number 1. We'll see if that continues. I don't know. I'm still not comfortable with that offense. They're just not they're not passing the football. So, for me, the guy who's going to score you the most points, it's going to be Lamar Jackson, and it's probably going to be Lamar Jackson scoring you the most points for the next couple of years. T. Higgins, a good piece, enough to, make me do this deal? Probably not. When I saw this deal, I'm not going to lie to you, it just reminded me of a deal that I made early in the offseason, and it reminded me that I might have got away with a major finesse. It was very early, right away when Harbaugh had come over, and there was the initial worry of, like, this could be a run-heavy offense, yada, yada. I traded my Justin Herbert for Lamar Jackson straight up 1-for-1. And now I'm looking at this, and I'm like, you have to throw T. Higgins and Wilson in, and we're still taking the Lamar side? I got away with robbery.
I feel like for this trade to be even, it would have to be like Herbert, T. Higgins, and DJ Moore. Or do you think that's like too much?
That might be too much. But
or like a Herbert and like 2 guys that are like T. Higgins level players.
Well, so that's what I was trying to think. I was like, at what level do we, if it's Herbert and Puka, are we taking the Herbert and Puka side? I think I am.
I'll feel a lot more comfortable with that.
If it's Herbert and Garrett Wilson, you take the Herbert and Garrett Wilson side?
I feel comfortable with that.
Okay, let's go down a little bit more. Herbert and Drake London.
I feel like it will have to be Herbert, Drake London, and Michael Wilson.
Fair enough. So, like, that's the type of piece. I just don't think T. Higgins is the caliber of wide receiver you want to move off on the down tier. So if you are receiving the Lamar Jackson side in a 12-team super flex, just give me the Lamar side.
Well, real quick on T. Higgins, because I know this was like the general consensus or the general thought like a year or so ago. But are we still feeling about T. Higgins that he can get put on an offense that doesn't have a number 1 receiver and he can instantly become a number 1 receiver? Because my thoughts on that is starting to fade a little bit.
So maybe, but here's the thing. I saw there's this Twitter account. It's called NFL Rumors. I don't know, how much validity is to it. Sometimes they take stuff from Schefter. Sometimes they take just, beat reporters and things like that. There was rumors from NFL Rumors that said that if the Cincinnati Bengals fall 0-4 this week to the Carolina Panthers, that they will start exploring trade options for T. Higgins.
Seen that.
So if T. Higgins does get moved, I think, there is some validity to it. So do we think that Higgins is still the long-term guy here? No, I don't think he's going to be in Cincinnati long-term. I think he's back on a franchise tag. He will play the year. I think that the Bengals felt like they were going to be strong Super Bowl contenders, and they're just not right now. The defense isn't good enough. Joe Burrow's play at the start of the year has been not great. You had the Jamar Chase holdout. Jamar's going to want so much money that they're not going to be able to afford T. Higgins. You still have to pay, to fix this defense. Higgins is not a luxury that they can afford to keep at this point. I think he's going to be a guy that I just think he's going to be a guy that finds his way onto another team next year. I would love to see T. Higgins actually be Justin Herbert's number one.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're in the league right now and look, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If I'm watching the Bengals this Sunday and I see that they're about to lose the game, towards the end of that game, I'm in a Dynasty league and I'm trying to trade for Eosavus. Like, I'm trying to get him on my roster in anticipation of, because I imagine his price tag still isn't too high. Because the minute they trade T. Higgins, his price is going to skyrocket.
Yeah, it's going to skyrocket. Also, another sneaky one that I think not a lot of people are thinking of at the moment, just because it's been out of sight, out of mind. Jermaine Burton was drafted by this regime this season on day 2. And he had a very good profile. There was off the field issues. That's the reason why he fell in the NFL draft, because of the off the field attitude issues. But at the end of the day, like, his talent was closer to a first round talent wide receiver than it was a third round wide receiver. So I think Jermaine Burton, he's sneaky as well. I was just trying to look at where Yoshavash and Burton are as far as value. Right now, it looks like Jermaine Burton, according to Keep Trade Cut, which take with a grain of salt, according to Keep Trade Cut, you can get Jermaine Burton for a third-round pick. If you have to give a late second, I'm still not opposed to it. Yoshavash, he's a guy that you can get even later. Where is he at? I'm not even finding him. Maybe he's not later. Maybe he was earlier. It would make sense if he was earlier because of the way that he started off the year. But even then, like, I'd have to imagine his price tag is somewhat the same. The third-round pick, late second maybe at best, but either way, I think both are good targets to trade for. Another guy in that offense that you might want to trade for, just based on the scarcity of the position right now, Mike Gesicki. If you can go get Mike Gesicki and T. Higgins is not on that team anymore, Mike Gesicki might have a decent end of the year. He might not be dead anymore.
Yeah, man, somebody dug him up.
They dug him up, man. Out here digging up graves. But let's move on to the next trade. We do have this trade here from Theo. It is a 12-team Superflex full PPR tight end premium. We got some premier wide receivers being traded. DJ Moore and CeeDee Lamb being received for Justin Jefferson and Jameson Williams. So we kind of have two of the top guys. I think Lamb and Jefferson, it comes down to preference to me. Whoever you like, you like. I think I prefer to have Jefferson, but obviously, bias, I guess. But that being said, it really comes down to DJ Moore and Jameson Williams, in my opinion, because I think Lamb and Jefferson are pretty much the same. So do you feel the same way?
Yeah, and that's why this trade is so easy, because we're talking about DJ Moore and Jameson Williams. I'm taking DJ Moore, and I'm not just taking him because he's a Bear fan. I take him because I know he's not a flash in the pan, and I know that even in the offense that seems inept right now, he's still being productive. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to DJ Moore and Lamb side, even though I do like Justin Jefferson more than CeeDee Lamb.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. It comes down to those number 2 wide receivers in the trade. Jefferson and Lamb, I prefer Jefferson, but when you throw DJ Moore and Jameson Williams in there, the gap is a little bit larger from DJ to JMO, so definitely makes me be willing to take the Lamb and the Moore side, and I think that's the side that I want, and that's the side that Theo gets. So that one was pretty easy. I don't know if we really need to dive too much deeper into the conversation there. This trade here, though, from Zay, it is a 12-team Superflex full PPR. Zay wanted us to know that he is rebuilding. So, look, Daniel Jones and Garrett Wilson being received for Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams. Let's just be very honest here, War. And you tell me if I am out of line by saying this. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing here? It's Davante Adams and Matthew Stafford. You're getting Garrett Wilson and Daniel Jones. There's an actual argument here, I think, where
that you could say Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, there's an actual argument, I think, where in a dynasty format, you could argue that Stafford and Jones are close.
Yeah.
In a dynasty format, and then it's Garrett Wilson for Davante Adams. What the hell?
Yeah, this one's open and shut too, Andrew. I mean, first of all, Daniel Jones isn't playing like complete garbage right now. He's not playing great, but he's not playing like complete garbage. Wilson will take him Monday through Sunday and 3 times on Friday over Davante Adams. And as I said, if Daniel Jones wasn't even in this deal, I would still take this deal if I was Zay. So this one's pretty open and shut to me, man.
I think this is one of those trades where you throw it in the Discord because you want to show off that you finesse somebody. Yeah, you did. I don't even know how I let this slip through the cracks. To be honest, when there's lopsided trades like this, I don't like to bring them onto the show because it just feels pointless to talk about the lopsided trades. It slipped through the cracks, but whatever.
I guess Garrett Wilson is like, for his standards, is slumping a little bit right now, but still.
Whatever, dude. This is a bad trade. Zay wins this one by a mile. Let's move on to the next one. Jordan submits this one. 8-team league here. We don't usually do 8 teams, but 8 teams, Superflex, full PPR. It's a start 3 wide receiver starting lineup. So he gets Achane and Quentin Johnston, and he gives up Khalil Shakir, Kenneth Walker, and Rome Odunze. Some solid pieces over there. What do we think about this type of deal where you get Achane and Johnston for Shakir, Walker, and Odunze?
Man, this is going to make me sound like a homer, man. I like the Shakir, Walker, and Odunze side. And I think Achane is amazing. And QJ, I'm not really buying QJ right now. Like, he's having a nice start, but like I need to see that for like a more prolonged period of time. So he's still looking like close to a throw-in for me right now, and I still value Shakir over here. So now we're talking about Kenneth Walker and Rome Odunze, I feel like his trajectory as a player long-term is going to be higher than Davante Achane. So, because for one, he's a wide receiver. So you know how I feel about wide receivers and their longevity versus running back, especially a small running back like Achane. So I'm going to go with the Shakir, Walker, and Odunze side.
Yeah, I think Rome's trending up at the moment. He feels like he's getting better every week. The matchups for Chicago is getting a little bit better every week. Keenan Allen is he even playing this week? He's still questionable, right?
He's going to play, but I don't think it's going to matter much because I think what's clear is that Odunze is Caleb's favorite weapon, and even over DJ Moore. It's just DJ Moore is more seasoned. So
yeah, I think I would still say that DJ is the number one just based off of volume. But I agree with you. I think Rome Odunze and Walker, that's the way that I'm looking at it. If I'm getting, I will say too, I wish that Jordan would have told us how many starting spots they have, because if this is like 8 teams start 8 or something like that, like a small league with small lineups, you definitely want to prioritize superstars, and that's where like I could maybe lean towards an Achane. Yeah. But if it's like 8 teams start 12 where you have like big lineups and things like that, that's why that type of context is important, and unfortunately we don't have it here. The start 3 wide receivers tells me that depth is a little bit more important, and so I'm looking at it the same way as you. Walker and Odunze for Achane. I think I lean the Walker and Odunze side there just a tiny bit. It's close, but a tiny bit leaning towards the Walker and the Odunze side. And then when it comes to Shakir and Johnston, give me Khalil Shakir. I love Khalil Shakir. I think he's a guy that is flying under the radar. And I just went actually in all of my leagues, except for the one Dynasty league where you have Shakir, because I didn't even want to ask you because I knew what the answer would be. I went and tried to buy Khalil Shakir in every single league because I think Shakir, it's going to sound crazy. It's going to sound crazy. The usage for Shakir this year is actually somewhat similar to what like early career Amon-Ra was, what Rashee Rice usage is, what the Jaden Reed usage is. And we've seen these wide receivers all kind of become zone beaters at the NFL level, which is kind of how the NFL is trending, is to this zone coverage being very heavy defensive scheme.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to think that like, could Khalil Shakir take another step forward and just be the number 1 wide receiver for Josh Allen moving forward long term? I think there's a chance that he could. He looks like the number 1. And Keon Coleman, you know, we've talked about Keon Coleman. It might sound crazy if I could have somebody in my league buy into Keon Coleman as the number one for Josh Allen, I would send my Keon Coleman for Khalil Shakir plus 100 times out of 100 times. I think Shakir is going to be, I think he's going to be a stud. This is a guy who I think is going to give us multiple years, probably moving forward, of wide receiver 2 numbers or better. I think we'll get 2-3 years of wide receiver 2 numbers or better from Khalil Shakir.
I've been beating the drum for Shakir for quite some time.
I have a lot of Khalil Shakir in best ball this year, and I'm very happy about it. I got a lot of Shakir and a lot of Rice, and I drafted a lot of those guys late, so I'm excited about that. But that being said, look, give me the Odunze, the Walker, and the Shakir side.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to this next one here. The next trade is a 12-team Superflex full PPR, a half-point tight end premium, and it is a start 10 rebuilding lineup for team number 1. So team number 1 gets Puka, Nacua, and Will Levis. They trade away Aaron Rodgers, Drake London, and a second-round pick. So a rebuilding team moving off of Rodgers, getting Will Levis back. You know, we don't know what Will Levis is going to be. He doesn't look great, but you do move the older QB for the younger QB, and then you have London and a second for Nacua. How are we feeling about that?
I'm going to go to the Nacua side.
Not by a lot, though, huh?
Not by a ton, because I'm kind of looking at Rodgers and Levis as like a wash. I'm like, in my mind, I'm taking them completely off the deal. And I'm just looking at this as like Nacua for Drake in the second. And I still lean Nacua because Drake London has been decent, but he hasn't been Puka Nacua decent. And that's, with Kirk Cousins. So, yeah, man, I'm leaning the Puka side.
I agree, and I agree with you too, where Nacua has shown us a ceiling that London just hasn't shown us yet. And the second round pick, it's not a ton. That I feel like is going to turn me away from trading London in a second for Nacua if I feel more comfortable with Nacua as the guy. Levis and Rodgers, you probably had to throw the second in a little bit just to also make up for the age gap there, but Will Levis would be a guy that I'm not necessarily trying to hold on to. Like, if somebody wants Will Levis in my rebuild and I have Levis on my team, you can have him, bro. Like, if somebody wants to, honestly, if you have Will Levis and somebody wants to give you like a second round pick for Levis, just get the second round pick back and re-roll the dice, on another QB. But I agree with you here, man. Nacua, Levis, not by a ton, but based on the context that we have, you can lean that way because they are rebuilding, and that does look like the better side for a rebuilding roster to get.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so let's move on to this next one here. Bigger trade. 12-team Superflex, full PPR, and a tight end premium. You got Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and Davante Smith going to AMR, and you got Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., and a third-round pick going to the Patriots. So, young stud in Marvin Harrison. You got I would say probably a young stud, not as much of a stud as Marvin in Davante Smith. Then you got Mahomes and Tyreek. Well, how are we feeling about this one, man? This is a lot of big names.
Yeah. So, we're basically looking at what, let's see, 2 most talented players in the offer is probably Mahomes and Harrison.
Yep.
I want to look at it for Harrison and Tyreek, but then we're talking about Kyler in the third for Mahomes and Davante Smith. And this is so tough because I like Murray and I love Harrison. So it's like, I just feel like there's a lot of value on that Tyreek, Mahomes, and Davante Smith side, man.
I agree.
Like too much to turn down as much. I would definitely try to find some way to not give up that much and get Harrison for sure.
Yeah, like I just feel like when I try and look at this in like startup value, the way that I feel like they would come off of the board is probably Mahomes and then either Marvin or Kyler. Those would be the next two probably at that end of round 1, early round 2 turn. And then you would have Davante and Tyreek off the board. They're probably in the late second, early third. You're getting a third round pick. I think that's where the deal went haywire. Why is it a third? Like this should almost be a first round pick. Like I feel like the 25 first should probably be what makes this deal even. If you're receiving the Hill, the Mahomes, and the Smith side, you're buying very low on a Tyreek Hill at the moment with the Tua, panic. And I think that's probably where you're buying low because honestly, who wouldn't want the Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison stack? But like you said, the value is just, I think you're not getting enough back.
No, they're not. They're absolutely not.
Give me the Mahomes side. It's hard. It is very hard. Look, I know there's a conversation I think to be had about Patrick Mahomes in fantasy at the moment because he is not performing as the number 1 quarterback. But it's very hard for me to look at these like Mahomes deals and not just go with the Mahomes side. Like I feel like you still have to give quite a bit to go get Mahomes just because it feels like with Mahomes you get this sense of like locked in security for a decade. Like it just feels like it's not going to change. Like I am not going to be questioning whether or not Patrick Mahomes is the starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs in 10 years. Like I know he'll still be the starting quarterback for the Chiefs in 10 years. Is Kyler Murray going to be around in 10 years? No, probably not. Are we going to be playing, looking 10 years into the future? No, you should not. But it just feels like that sense of security with Mahomes gets baked into these deals.
There's only 2 fantasy quarterbacks I'm taking over Mahomes. And some people argue that there shouldn't even be 2.
Who are they?
Oh, Josh Allen and CJ Stroud.
Okay. I probably am still only taking one over, and it's Josh Allen. So Josh Allen is my QB1. Outside of that, like, I think I still just lean Mahomes. And so we'll see, man. I think the side receiving Kyler Murray, Patriot, he probably should have got a first instead of a third, but I digress. Let's move on to this next trade. We do have Malik Neighbors in a deal here. 10-team, super flex, half PPR, plus a half-point tight end premium, and it's start 10. This is their startup year. So really there's not a strong contender. There's not a rebuilder coming out of the startup. So it's just pretty much straight up, team for team. You get Jalen Hurts and Jacoby Brissett. You give up Neighbors, Justin Fields, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, a 25 third. How are we feeling about that? That's a lot of stuff on the sending side. Is it too much or too little for Jalen Hurts? Can we actually, let's simplify this a little bit. You mind if I simplify this? Pull Jacoby Brissett out. Let's pull Russell Wilson out. They're the same damn thing. We'll pull them out. The third, even just for the sake of the argument, let's just throw the third away. So it's Jalen Hurts, Neighbors, Fields, and Stafford. That's pretty much what we're looking at here.
It's hard. I kind of look at Jalen Hurts as a depreciating asset, man.
You think so?
Yeah, and I look at Malik Neighbors like he's a stud already. Like
I said earlier,
quarterback.
I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was like, I think I was talking to Brett in our league, and I just said, I was like, I feel like when I look at Malik Neighbors, like from a dynasty aspect, like whether it's right or wrong, like I'm already almost viewing him in that like Amon-Ra, Jamar Chase type of territory. Like I almost already view him in that range.
It's weird, isn't it? Like I actually view him and Marv as already like up
Elite
there,
guys.
like elite guys. And I know it's a small sample size, and I'm gonna get disagreed with, and I don't care. I already look. This is such an amazing wide receiver draft we just had. I already look at Odunze in the same breath as Chris Olave. To be honest, like
I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's wrong.
Yeah, like, and I mean that's amazing for 3 rookies after 3 games to like be looked upon that way.
Yeah, I mean we literally have 2 of the rookie wide receivers that we could argue are top 5 wide receivers in Dynasty. We have another one, a third one, that we can argue as a top 15 wide receiver in Dynasty. And then you probably have another one. I would say that Brian Thomas Jr. probably has an argument at the moment as a top 25 wide receiver in Dynasty, top 20 wide receiver in Dynasty. So I think we have a very good wide receiver class that came in. And when I look at this trade,
only one getting elite quarterback play out of all those guys.
Yeah, and I think right now, if I'm looking at this deal, my worries now let me rephrase this. I still worry about Justin Fields being a top type of quarterback talent at the NFL level. Like,
too.
I worry that he's not going to be able to play at a top level. But that being said, I no longer worry about Justin Fields' future. I think Justin Fields has secured the quarterback 1 job in Pittsburgh. I think that this coaching is good enough in Pittsburgh that he is going to remain the starter for the rest of the year. He is probably going to get a contract extension from Pittsburgh to be their starter going into next year, assuming that he doesn't have a major collapse, in the back half of the season. But I think Justin Fields is the guy in Pittsburgh. So I would view him at minimum the same way that you would view a guy like Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
With
Pittsburgh is notorious for allowing someone to have slightly above average quarterback play and just relying on the defense. Like that whole back half of Ben Roethlisberger's career, he was just above average, and they kept riding that thing. And even if you look at their team historically, the Terry Bradshaws, all those guys were just above average quarterbacks. So I think Justin Fields did secure that job, like you said, and I do see him in that Baker Mayfield role.
Yeah, I think he's fine. And so I view him as a starting quarterback. Moving forward, we talked about Neighbors. Stafford, you're still going to get production out of for another year or two. I think there's an argument that you take the package of Neighbors, Fields, and Stafford. But I think it's close enough that I actually don't mind if you just want to get the superstar in Jalen Hurts, because I know the narrative about Jalen Hurts. You said he's a depreciating asset. It feels like the narrative about Jalen Hurts is negative right now, but we have to remember, the start of the year for Jalen Hurts, it hasn't been super, pretty. He had he had a good week in week 1. He was a top producer in week 1. Week 2 wasn't great. Week 3 wasn't great. But also week 2 and week 3, he was without his number 1 wide receiver in A.J. Brown. And in week 3, he even played without his number 2 wide receiver in Davante Smith. So, like, it hasn't been great for him, but I don't know. I think it's kind of been more circumstance than it is anything. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to chalk this up as a fair deal, and that might be the cop-out because I think you could make an argument for either side, especially in a startup year. But there's definitely an argument with Justin Fields and Neighbors. You're definitely buying risk, I think, on the Justin Fields and Stafford type of side. But who the hell doesn't want Malik Neighbors on their team?
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, let's move on to the next one. I think this is the last one, or maybe there's one more. I guess we'll see. I can't remember how many we've done, but you got 10 team.
This seems like an easy one. Go ahead.
Okay, you got a 10 team, 1 quarterback. It's not super flex. It's 1 quarterback, full PPR, tight end premium. Team 1 is a contender. You get Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, a 1st and a 5th. You send Tyreek Hill, Josh Jacobs, a 3rd and a 3rd. Honestly, the 3rds and the 5ths, like, they just don't mean shit to me. Like, pull them all out. It's CMC, DJ Moore, and a 1st for Tyreek and Josh Jacobs. How we feeling?
Okay, Andrew, before I even say anything, can you do your quick public service announcement that you like to do about trading picks in 2027?
Yeah. If you're trading picks, 3 years out, 4 years out, 2 years out, whatever it may be, like, you better hope that the commissioner of your league is collecting buy-ins for those leagues that you're, trading futures away 3 years out, because, it's very easy for somebody to go out there, trade your 27 first and 27 second, 27 third, try and win for 2 years, and then they say, all right, I have no future left with this roster. I'm out of here. So hopefully your commissioner is collecting buy-ins. That is the public service announcement. Make sure you collect buy-ins for years of picks that you trade away.
Thank you. Now, I'm taking the Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, the 1st and the 5th side. Throw that 5th out of there, like you said. So Tyreek Hill, Jacob for McCaffrey. This McCaffrey thing, and I know I've said that I think McCaffrey may or may not be done. This McCaffrey thing is starting to look like the Tua thing. I think we're abandoning the ship a little bit too early. We're abandoning it a little bit too early. You could look at Hill and McCaffrey. They're usually the number 1 guys in their positions in fantasy when healthy, but it's funny because right now, both of these guys are compromised. One's compromised because of injury. The other one is compromised because of injury, but not to himself. But that could just both be a 1-season problem, or it could be a permanent problem. Honestly, I was talking to somebody about this last night. I'm going to talk about Tua real quick. It came out earlier in the week that Tua is going to see a neurologist this week. I think that is worth worrying about, that we're already on Saturday and you haven't heard a peep about how that appointment went. Like, I think that's something worth considering, because I'm telling you now, if the Dolphins have to go on a long-term quarterback search, I'm not 100% sure that Tyreek is going to stick around waiting for them to find that quarterback, because Tyreek was already talking about, his intentions of when he might want to retire and things like that. And if he's out here putting up pedestrian numbers, I mean, he's either A, going to ask for a trade, or he's B, just going to get the hell out of there. Meanwhile, you got McCaffrey. He's in Germany. I don't know if he's trying to do the thing Kobe did and get blood replaced or whatever while he's out there.
He was getting stem cell treatment.
Yeah. So we don't know how that's going to go, but we at least know that he's going to come back. And when he comes back, I expect him to be productive when he's playing. It's not a matter of if I think he's going to be productive or not. It's a matter of if and when he's going to play. If we're talking about DJ Moore, Josh Jacobs, to me, that's a landslide for the DJ Moore side. And then the picks or whatever. So first. So we're looking at McCaffrey in the 1st, for example. For Tyreek Hill, I'm taking the McCaffrey side. We're looking at DJ for Josh Jacobs. I'm taking DJ side. So
I agree. I agree with the way you break it down. I mean, I think I take this. I know that I take the CMC, the DJ Moore on the 1st side, and take this with a grain of salt. But I want to talk a little bit of Christian McCaffrey injury and the Germany thing in general, because I feel like it's a topic of conversation being had. And like I said, take it with a grain of salt, because obviously there's a lot of information we do not have. However, I do follow some trusted sources that I do trust, put the time and the effort and the research into the data that they present. actual, MDs. Like there's actual people who do this for a living that are certified and have the education and the stuff that I do not have, that I will trust their opinion. Now there is Sports MD Analysis on X. He does a lot of really good injury breakdowns for fantasy football, and his takeaway from the Germany thing was not necessarily a bad thing. He said that him going to Germany to get the stem cells isn't actually that bad. That's actually probably better for him, because him going to Germany, he can get a higher dosage than he can get in the United States, which should make him be able to recover quicker and be allowed to be playing faster than if he would have done it here in the United States. Additionally, he also said that the way that this has kind of panned out makes him curious, as if there was not just calf injury, but you know how it was listed as like calf and then it was like calf/Achilles. He said that he feels that there might have been some micro tearing in the Achilles tendon of Christian McCaffrey, and that's why he got the stem cell replacement treatment. And if that is the case, the ramp up period needs to be slow. The ramp up period needs to be cautious, because if you have the micro tearing and it's not fully fixed, it's very easy to pop the Achilles and fully tear the Achilles. And obviously at this point in Christian McCaffrey's career, a full tear would be very detrimental. It would be very detrimental to the career. So I think that Christian McCaffrey, if that is actually the case, obviously that was speculation from that doctor, but if that was actually the case, he is going to take it slow. The Niners will take it slow, because the longevity of the career of Christian McCaffrey is more important than the short-term get on the football field. But it sounds like overall the procedure and the way that he went about it was actually the best way to probably go about this whole situation. So the only thing that's been frustrating for fantasy managers and dynasty managers in general is that the lack of information we got preseason about the injury, and then obviously a lot of people drafting and having Christian McCaffrey, and us getting caught kind of with our pants down on week 1 when he was ruled out, and then it was just the Jordan Mason show. That being said, I will also throw it out there. If you are rostering running backs like McCaffrey, and you are rostering running backs like Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs and these older guys in a dynasty league, and you are not paying for their handcuff, honestly, the opinion is on, I mean, the way that goes about, that's on you, bro. Like, I would say if you have Christian McCaffrey, it should have been priority to have Mitchell, and it should have been priority once Mitchell got put on IR to have Jordan Mason. Like, we knew that these guys were next up. So that being said, I just wanted to throw that out about Christian McCaffrey, but it sounds like we shouldn't be super worried, but it does seem like the best case scenario for Christian and for the Niners is a slow ramp up to make sure that he is fully healed after the treatment that he got in Germany.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree. Just take it easy, take it slow.
Jordan Mason's been fine plugging in for you. Like, I understand, the Niners, they haven't really been winning games. They're 1-2 right now, if I remember correctly, right? They're 1-2?
Yeah, I believe so.
So, yeah, I mean, they need to win some games, but it hasn't been to the fault of Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason has filled in fine. They've had Ayuk not in game shape because he sat out. They had George Kittle injured. They had Deebo Samuel injured. Like, the defense is banged up. It hasn't been to the fault of Jordan Mason. So just keep running Jordan Mason. But I think that might be the last trade, and it is. So that is the last trade. So that being said, folks, that was the Dynasty Trade Show. 10 trades that you guys have made recently. We'll do this every few weeks. Every 2 weeks, we'll just do another trade show. So make sure you are in that Discord. Free to join. Linked in the description. Submit those trades in the Dynasty Trade Review channel. And I think that conversation you had, War, about Waddle, actually, I think it was about Tua was with me when I was offering you Waddle. I was offering you Jalen Waddle this last week.
Well, right now the duck is just drifting in the pond.
Yeah, you said I gave you a horrible offer, and if it made me a little bit mad that you said it was a horrible offer. So I went out and I asked the internet. I was like, let me go ask the internet, what offers they would prefer. I will tell you, there was a lot of 50-50 splits, and there was a couple of them where the package that I was giving you actually won. I understand if you don't want to take it. It was not a bad offer. And for the folks at home, I was asking, this is a 10-team super flex, tight end premium, full PPR, that type of league. I am a super strong contender. War, I think you're trying to figure out whether you are throwing in the towel or not, right?
No, the towel is thrown in.
The towel is thrown in, folks. So I am contending. He is rebuilding. I offered him his choice. He could pick one of these 2 quarterbacks. I said, take Jared Goff or Trevor Lawrence, whichever one you like more. You can have one of them. You can have one of these wide receivers, Jalen Waddle or Brian Thomas Jr., so create the package that you want. And I told you I would throw you a first-round pick as well in 2025. You said it's a late pick because it's my pick, but a first BTJ and T-Law, or a first Waddle and Goff, or whichever way you want to put that together, for his CJ Stroud. And he said it was a horrible offer, but the internet didn't say it was that bad.
If you was giving me Marvin or neighbors or something in that deal, then that would have made it a hell of a lot easier. Hey, look, can you blame me? I just put C.J. Stroud over Mahomes and right after Josh Allen.
Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough.
so you want to do Tajay Spears and Sam Darnold for Tajay Spears in the third?
Probably not. I just look, man. We've been talking. If you followed this show for as long as you probably have, we've been talking this Sam Darnold trade for what is it, months now? We're both being just stubborn as shit. I think it's because it's a 10-team league. You know, the draft picks are a little bit more. They're a little bit different. Now that being said, I did offer you Brenton Strange, a third, and what was the other piece? You said it was a decent offer. You said you thought about it.
I did think about it. Then I realized that Brenton Strange is probably never taking Evan spot permanently.
You don't think so? He looks pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I threw you a 5th-round pick. It was like a 5th-round pick, a third, and Strange. So it's just like a tiny little package. But I don't know if you want to. We were talking about this and Brissett and other stuff earlier in the offseason. If you wanna do Darnold for, do I have 2/3? You said you'd take 2/3.
Yeah, but you don't have 2/3. And I looked, so I was like, darn it.
I would do that if I had another third. Maybe I can. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna shop Brenton Strange around, see if I can get somebody to give me a third for Brenton Strange. If I can get another third, I'm gonna send you 2/3 for Darnold.
All right, we can do that.
All right, bet. All right, folks. So that is it for today's episode. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and help support this channel. Those are the best free ways to do so. And War, where can they watch your content at if they want some other content as well?
You guys could check me out on Crimson Mass Pro Wrestling. If you're a pro wrestling fan, things are heating up. Come on over, check us out, subscribe to our videos, subscribe to our channel. We very much would appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Go give them a follow. It will be linked in the description as always. And yeah, man, that's really all we have for you today. If you need help with start sits tomorrow morning, we will be live for Sunday Live and then back at it again for another week. So nothing else for you today. Good luck in your matchups this week. Good luck to you, War. I don't think I play you anywhere, so I will say good luck to you.
To you as well.
With that being said, I have nothing for you today, so we'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.